how have you been? Because it's been a what? I think it's been a couple of years since we've properly
Four
spoken, caught up.
years. Yeah,
God,
four or something. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I remember you first reaching out to me in 2021 for that
Yep.
crowdfunder campaign.
Yeah. Madness.
Yeah, and a lot has happened since then. But just
Oh
for
yeah.
the uninitiated, just for those who are watching who have no idea about living paintings or this Touch to See Books campaign, it'd be great to hear about it in your own words.
Living Paintings are a charity that, weirdly, since then, I've actually become a trustee of as well. So I'm a trustee of a charity as of 2024, which is a bit mad, but obviously a massive pleasure and privilege. Um, and basically, they're a charity that do audio and visual, well, audio and tactile, I suppose, books and box sets, we call them, which are collections of images for blind and visually impaired people, such as myself. Basically, the idea is that you have the tactile picture, which is like a raised 3D, I suppose. Would you say 3D?
Yeah, yeah,
You, yeah, it's technically 3D, isn't it? And the idea is that you're feeling this image and you have an audio description as well that plays along with that on a CD or USB stick, or back when I first started getting them, they were on cassette, which they don't do anymore.
yeah.
Um, but they were, for a long time, they were doing cassettes. The idea is that the description gives you, sort of explains the colours and the details of things, and then you're also feeling the image, and it's between the two that you then build up a much more accurate kind of mental image of how something might look.
Let's continue tracing down over the tactile picture. I wear a navy blue V-neck t-shirt, and over the top of this, a black double-breasted leather jacket.
Because as a blind person, you have to imagine a lot. Like, you know, when someone describes something to you, the image that comes into your head is very imagination based. Because obviously you've got no point of reference, really, to someone describing something. Um, so my dad trying to describe a Dalek to me back in the day was, as you can imagine, quite interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and the only way I figured that out was because my brother happened to be a Doctor Who fan and had a toy, and I was able to feel it and go, oh. But then at that point, you have the discrepancy of, well, how on earth does this scale work? Because this toy is what, 5 inches high or whatever they were, and I don't understand how this translates to like being next to an actual person. How does that look? I have since seen Dalek replicas and props and stuff, and I've been able to sort of work that out. And I guess another example actually would be the Sontaran, because literally, I think you have a copy of book one, I think.
I do. Yes, I've got it right next to me.
Hey,
Yeah, here's the Sontaran
look at
one.
that. There you go, preparation. That's what that is. So the Sontaran that's on there is literally the first Sontaran I've ever seen in my life. Until I saw that image, which would have been 2021, late 2021 when I got the first draft of it. I couldn't get my head around what they were meant to look like. It didn't add up to me. Like, even based on descriptions from like the Target books or transcripts of the episodes or whatever with the descriptions of the Tom Torrens, I just didn't understand what that was until I saw that image, and now it makes more sense to me. And that's the magic of living paintings, is that they take things like that and allow me as a blind person to sort of fully appreciate what that is. They've done a lot of different licenses and things, and they've done all sorts of different categories and of different things, including like modern artwork and different properties and stuff. Thomas the Tank Engine was the first one that I got when I was about 4 years old. But then in 2021 I just had the idea of, why haven't we done Doctor Who yet? Why haven't we done a pack based around Doctor Who? Because there's so much. Doctor Who obviously massive, has been for over 60 years at this point. Living Paintings to me is all about bridging generations and bringing generations and families together. It's about bringing together old and young, children and adults, blind and visually impaired and fully sighted. It's about bringing them all together and putting everybody on a level playing field, as I think does Doctor Who. Doctor Who brings together generations. Literally, it's been going for so long. It brings generations together. It brought me and my dad closer together because we would watch it together, and he'd tell me about watching John Pertwee and Tom Baker as a kid, and It brought me and my brother together because he was a fan, and because he was a fan and had like toys around the house. But I got interested. You know, we're always talking about it, and you know, we all went to a Doctor Who experience as a family, and when it was in London, you know, it brings people together. You know, I mean, you and I right now, you know, it brought us together, didn't it? We're talking right now because of Doctor Who.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
thought, well, let's put the two things together. Like Living Paintings and Doctor Who, they should work together. So I pitched it in, must have been January 2021, and I wrote out a whole like, this is how it could look, and you know, we could do this, and this, and then send that in. And then in May 2021, they called me into a meeting and said, so about that Doctor Who idea that you had, we want to do it, but we need to do, you know, like a crowdfunder to raise the fund to do it. And that's when we decided we were going to do that. We launched that in June 2021, and you very kindly promoted it. So thank you very much. I was telling someone the other day, I was so blown away by how accepting and how welcoming Doctor Who community was about this campaign. Because everybody was just so lovely about it, and was sharing it and donating to it, and it was really, really lovely. Our target was 15 grand, and we ended up raising 23,981. So
You blew past it, yeah.
yeah, it was great, and we've had so many, you know, Doctor Who alumni sharing it as well, and Chris Chibnall donated, and I got to chat with Tom Baker, which was insane in the best way. I'll never forget that, coming on the Zoom call with him and going, "Hello, Mr. Baker, can I call you Tom?" And he said, "Well, if you call me Mary, I'll be very upset, but you may call me Tom, yes."
Because that's been so, as someone who's been watching this process from the outside, it's just been so wonderful to see the project kind of escalate like very dramatically quite quickly, because you know, so many people were sharing it. I know Big Finish have been behind it as well, and then you get so many incredible Doctor Who personalities and alumni involved, like Derek Jacobi, Nicholas Briggs, Dan Starkey, Katie Manning. Those are just some of the names involved in the first wave, in the first part. Like when
that was mad in its own way.
Yeah, and
we got involved,
and it's just been so great to see from the outside the project go from strength to strength with part 2. Christopher Eccleston, Nabil Shaban, Annette Badland, Sophie Aldred, etc. And now you've got this part 3 set coming up as well to complete all of the Doctors. You've got Michelle Gomez and Ncuti Gatwa and Alex Kingston as well. So, like, how has it kind of been for you to sort of, or like, you have this idea to include Doctor Who in the Living Paintings library, and then all of a sudden you have all of these Doctors and Masters and how does it feel for you to be a Doctor Who fan and to be involved in that yourself? Kind of surreal, like, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And it just, you know, I know you've interviewed, obviously, people from the show as well, like Sophie Aldred, and, you know, you've interviewed some of these people that have been involved. And, you know, you'll know, it's so surreal, because it's like, you're Ace, and I'm chatting to you on Zoom. This is mad. You know, that sort of thing. And there's been a lot of that, because actually, from sort of like the end of production for part 2 and all of the production for part 3, I started becoming involved in Living Paintings in an audio capacity, in that I'm freelance, right? So I do audio editing and stuff freelance. So I actually have done quite a few audio editing and production things for them now, for over a year. And as part of that, before I started doing stuff for them, you know, and getting paid to do it, basically, up until that point, they did some trial sessions, and some of those trial sessions were some of these. So I got to sit in on a couple of the sessions for part 2, and actually got to chat to some of the people that were involved, which was absolutely mad. Because I remember they said they were going to do that, and then a few weeks in, they were like, "Oh yeah, so next week we've got Chris Eccleston in the studio." It's like, okay, wow, okay. And then on the day, I was just like, hold it together, come on. And he came on, and he was so genuinely lovely, and we had a really nice chat. And it was just, this is absolutely mad. You know, I'm talking to the 9th Doctor, literally, and we're having a chat about this campaign and about Doctor Who and stuff, and it was genuinely mad. And then it kicked up a gear because with part 3, I literally sat in either virtually or in person in one case. I sat in on every single session for part 3. So I did get to virtually meet Ncuti Gatwa, for example, which was mad. Again, I'm going to be saying that a lot, but it is all very mad and very surreal. And again, Ncuti was just lovely, and we chatted a lot and we laughed a lot while we were recording and stuff. As I say, so nice to be so welcomed into the Doctor Who community, because I've always watched people like yourself. I've been a follower of yours since maybe 2012 or something like that. I sometimes would comment on YouTube stuff, on Doctor Who YouTubers and stuff, but I didn't do it a lot. I don't really, no particular reason, it just wasn't really something I did. And then to then have this sort of be this campaign was my kind of introduction into being involved in the community, and then to have it just be so welcomed and welcomed, I think is the right word, and just so accepted by the community. It was really, really lovely. And then to have the actors themselves, we have so many actors, that I even recognised from Big Finish, people like Stephen Noonan and Michael Troughton, people like that, and Nick Briggs, of course. It's just been, it's so surreal I remember getting part 1, the finished part 1 with all the audio and the pictures and everything. I'm listening to this going, this is so surreal. There's a Doctor Who Living Paintings thing, that's surreal in itself. And we've got the actual actors, and I know who they all are, and I can't believe it. And they're like, this is because I did a campaign, and this is why this happened. This is so weird,
Yeah, well, there's a tagline for a recent series of Doctor Who. I think it's series 12. It's Space for All. And I think that's the definitive tagline for the series. One of the names you've got involved in part 3 is Ellie Walwork, who played Hannah in Series 11's It Takes You Away. We've got a blind actress who's playing a blind character who's now involved in a blindness and partially sighted charity campaign. And I think being able to involve everybody in that, I think that's just a really wonderful sentiment.
Yeah, I love that tagline as well. I think it sums up the programme, literally. It is about all, everyone. There's a space for everyone in Doctor Who and a space for everyone in the fandom, and I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for part 3, as part 3 of the campaign, I presume it's the final one. Or is the final one for now? For now.
Final one for now.
..
We'll see what happens with the show first.
Yeah. Who knows? We might get a Billy Piper as the Doctor Living Paintings book. We shall see. I'm curious what happens with yourself and your involvement with Living Paintings moving forward. Is there another franchise or series that you've got your eyes on, or is there something else that you want to do moving forward?
Well, I mean, I'm going to be, like I say, more involved in the production side of things. Like I say, for the past year, just over a year, I think, I've been involved with the audio editing of a lot of Living Paintings releases. Not box sets like this. So the Doctor Who stuff is a set of box sets, right? So it's just a series of pictures. There's no sort of book element to it, if you see what I mean. Whereas a lot of the stuff that I work on is the children's, they call them living picture books, because they are actual books that have been typed out into Braille, and they have all the printed illustrations, and they have often between 2 and 4 tactile images in there as well. Sort of key ones in the stories, as it were. So you can have that idea of what things look like, basically, within the story. And I've been involved in editing a lot of the audio descriptions for those, which is really, really cool, because I get to sit in on the sessions for those as well and virtually attend, and then I get to edit all the audio afterward, which is really, really cool. Sometimes I get to say to whoever it is, can we do that line again, please, for this reason or other, which is, it sounds like a really little thing, but it's kind of cool, to be that involved in the production process. So that's kind of my main thing now with them, is that I'm really involved in the audio editing side of it, which I'm loving. That's a lot of fun, and obviously I'm a trustee of the charity as well. Separate to that, I am a trustee of the charity as well, which is a real pleasure and privilege to have that. As for what big project we got coming next, there's a few things that are sort of floating around, but nothing particularly concrete at the moment. But I'm always thinking about it. Like, it's always in the back of my head of like, okay, what's the next idea that we can do, and how can we do it? And I'm always looking out for things like Doctor Who and that sort of thing that we can run with.
Yeah, oh, brilliant. What I also wanted to get your opinion on is because in recent years with Doctor Who being distributed on Disney Plus internationally, and there's been, many great moves towards accessibility for it with audio description and sign language versions as well, which are available on the BBC. I was kind of wondering, what more do you want to see from Doctor Who or media in general? Do you have any sort of pet peeves, or is there anything that you think that media could be doing more in order to reach to more people?
I mean, I'm overjoyed at the thing with iPlayer. When that was all put on iPlayer, I just thought, yes, finally we've done this. Because you got to think, my exposure to classic Doctor Who up until that point, and I think we might have spoken about this in our chat from a few years ago, my exposure to classic Who at that point has been the Target novelizations, or the audiobook versions of the Target novelizations. In terms of actually watching, Genesis of the Daleks, never had until 2023 or whatever it was, when the opportunity finally appeared. And I think I did initially try to do it in chronological order, because I thought this is the only chance. And this is why, because some people said, why would you do it like that? Why would you not want to watch Pyramids of Mars immediately or something? I still haven't, incidentally, because there's just so much to get through. I still haven't done it. And then they started doing more new stuff as well. So it's like, oh, bloody hell, need to catch up with that. So certain things were happening, obviously, with, for example, the elephant in the room, I suppose, is that I still haven't seen An Unearthly Child, which I'd really, really like to. I know it's apparently not a fantastic story, but I feel like I really want to see it, because this is where it all began, isn't it? I'd love to be able to see that, but it just isn't available. I have your video to thank for that, because because I didn't know what was going on with that, because I think I'd left Twitter by that point.
Wise move.
Yeah, well, part of me misses Twitter, because of that's where most of the campaign stuff, for me at least, was. I wasn't really doing Instagram at the time, and it was all kind of happening over there. And it was really, really nice, I used to chat to people on there and stuff, and then that kind of went, obviously, because obviously Twitter went into very strange directions, and continues to, from what I understand.
Yeah.
I watched your video about the situation with An Unearthly Child, and I just think it's really, really sad, because I just think to have something that historic about Doctor Who, kept off iPlayer is a real shame, because I would really like to see that. So when I realised that was happening, and that An Unearthly Child probably wasn't going to appear for a while, that's when I kind of thought, okay, not really much point doing this in order now, because if we got that significant a story missing, you've not really experienced it in the chronological order, have you? So that's when I started jumping around a bit more. But it's been great. It's been great to finally watch all these classic stories, and I think I guess what I would want for media in general, which is a very long answer to a very simple question, but
No, it was a big question, to be fair.
yeah, thank you. But I think I hope that with more modern things, I guess, and classic things as well, but especially with more modern material, I hope that it doesn't take this long for people to realise how important things like audio description are, because I feel like audio description is kind of a bit of an afterthought with a lot of things. It's getting better. It's better than it was. It's a lot better than it was, but I do feel like it's kind of a bit of an afterthought, and I just wish that it was like how subtitles are pretty much, from what I understand, pretty much a given that subtitles are going to be there. I think it should be the same with audio description, and I don't think that's an unreasonable request.
Yeah.
And I hope that it becomes more commonplace and expected, and just a given as subtitles or something like that.
Yeah. But going back to the Doctor Who Living Paintings books. Do you personally have a particular favorite of the ones that have been released? I'll tell you my favorite. I love I
Yeah, I
love
do.
the Fourth Doctor and Davros one. I've got it right behind me.
Yeah.
Because you can feel the length of the scarf going all the way down his
Yeah,
body.
exactly.
The curly hair as well, like a defining image of the Fourth Doctor.
It's beautifully detailed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my favorite one. But I'm curious what your favorite one is.
Interesting. I mean, I love them all. I guess part three as a whole had a special place in my heart because I have so many memories connected with that one. Because I was literally on every session for the recording of the audio. And in fact, the first two pictures are so the 10th Doctor and the Weeping Angel and the 11th Doctor and Skaldak are described by Alex Kingston. And that was the last session that we did. We did it back in June. And I was actually there in person for that one, which was really, really nice. Got to meet Alex. There's there's a photo on my Instagram somewhere of me and Alex in studio, and Kizzy, my guide dog, who was just rolling around on her back with Alex. She took to Alex immediately. And it's just a picture of Alex and Kizzy just having a little moment, and it's really, really sweet. And those two might be a favourite, I guess, because of literally I was in the studio while she was recording it, and it was just really, it was ultra surreal, in so many ways. And she said hello sweetie during the recording, and I got to hear her say it in person. It was like, whoa, this is mad, this is so good. But then Suti as well. Suti was so nice. So that'll always be a special one as well. But yeah, I know what you mean about the detail on the Tom Baker and the Davros as well, actually. Because again, that was a bit of a weird concept for me to get my head around. He's like a man who is half Dalek, as I had it described to me back in the day, and I'm like, okay, cool.
So his arm is a sink plunger? Is the what?
Yeah, how does this work? Yeah. Does he have a gun of some sort?
Yeah,
I imagine he does. That would make sense to me. Oh no, he doesn't. Okay, I don't understand. And then we got the toy of the Julian Bleach Davros. And like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm with you. But that picture, I think, highlights it even more because obviously I think that's the Michael Wisher Davros, I think, in that picture.
I think what I love, like, just conceptually about the Touch to See books as well is because they're necessarily quite large because to be able to get the detail of the image in, but it also means that you can have multiple people sort of like crowd around it and talk about it and engage with it, whereas reading a conventional book, it can be quite an intimate experience. And I feel like that sort of feels like a real great way to get multiple people involved, whether they're partially sighted or not, to on the same wavelength to discuss media or discuss entertainment or characters that they love.
That's it. That's what I love about it, is that it literally brings people together because, you looked at those images and you actually look at them and you know what it is. And that's fine. It's like a regular picture, I suppose. I feel it and I also know what it is. To pretty much, a similar, if not the same level of understanding of the detail. And that's what I love about it. Like, we both look at that image and we're on a similar playing field. Whereas, to look at a picture and then you describe it to me, that's going to look completely different in my head to how it looks. And then it's like, the one I always think of is the second Doctor one, with the Tomb of the Cybermen era type Cyberman that's on there. Seeing those two actually standing together was really interesting because I could actually see, the scale again. I grew up with the, obviously, modern sort of 2006, 2006 era sort of Cybermen that I think were a bit of a mainstay, if I'm not right. They were kind of the mainstay of the modern series up to a point.
Yeah.
I grew up seeing toys of them, and I couldn't get my head around, like, again, what were these classic ones like? Because they look very different, apparently. They certainly sound different. What did that look like? And then obviously you see that image. And now, looking at that image, you and I are on the same or very similar playing field in terms of knowing what these characters look like and what this picture looks like. And that's what I love about it. To anyone who might be watching and who has supported the campaign or, been following it, just thanks you so much. It's been such a mad, surreal, all of these words experience you know, it's just been amazing, and it's been so nice to be accepted, so welcomed into the community, and yeah, I'm just so happy that it's out there and in full now, at least for now, as we said earlier. And
Spoilers.
yeah, exactly. And I really hope that, you know, somewhere there's going to be a blind or visually impaired Doctor Who fan in the making who goes, so what do all these characters look like? And the parents go, well, you can now find out, and they can, you know, order these in, and you know that person can get to see what these characters look like, and you know, hopefully fall in love with the program, and yeah, join the community, I guess. So I hope that it helps people, and I'm just super grateful for everybody that's followed and donated and shared, and yeah, thank you so much, everybody. It's been such a pleasure to be on this journey. Thank you so much.
And thank you for instigating this journey with your idea and your initial campaign. And of course, thank you so much for just having me along for the journey in even just a small way. It's been so wonderful to watch this all unfold, and it's so wonderful to even like receive a few of them as well. It's just so wonderful to have seen this project really balloon in scale, and with so many incredible people involved, and yourself, of course, as well. It's been absolutely fantastic. And
well, thank you for your support. Thank you so much for all your support. Like I say, it was so surreal to chat to you in 2021 because I've been a fan of yours for years. So it's been, you know, such a. I count that as one of the surreal moments. Is I got to chat with Mr. TARDIS twice now.
Well, I'm a huge fan of you now, so the feeling's mutual.
Thank you so much.
No, wonderful stuff.